Heartland Season 19 Episode 1 wasted no time, pulling fans back into the emotional world of the Fleming Bartlett family. Episode 1 set the stage in ways no one could have predicted. The premiere of Heartland Season 19 opened with a mix of comfort and disruption, and that's exactly why it hit fans so hard. We've come to expect the warm, grounded atmosphere of the ranch, the horses, the family meals, the quiet wisdom of Jack, but this time, those familiar images felt shadowed by something heavier. Episode 1 made it clear nothing in this season will come easy, and every character will be pushed to a breaking point. Amy's story took center stage, and for good reason. Since Dee's tragic passing, she's carried a grief that fans know too well, balancing her role as a mother with the responsibilities of the ranch. Episode 1 finally showed us what many had been speculating for months, that Amy is beginning to step into a new chapter of her life, even if it terrifies her. Nathan's presence was impossible to ignore. After confessing his feelings last season, fans wondered if Amy would shut him out or let herself take a chance. Episode 1 didn't give us the full answer, but the tension between them was undeniable. Amy's hesitation spoke louder than words. Every glance at Lindy, every quiet pause, showed she is still torn between holding on to the past and daring to imagine a future. But Nathan isn't just some love interest dropped in for drama. His storyline is already tangled with family complications. Episode 1 hinted at the storm brewing within his household, with whispers about his father's failing health and the looming shadow of responsibility. Viewers who have followed Nathan know this isn't just about romance. It's about whether he can step up as a man when everything around him is about to fall apart. And if Amy is part of that journey, it could mean even more trials ahead. Lou, on the other hand, was dealt one of the most emotional blows of the episode. The accident that's been teased finally came into focus, and it shook her to the core. Lou has always been the ambitious one, chasing careers and leadership roles, sometimes at the expense of her family. But episode 1 showed that life can flip everything upside down in an instant. Her recovery won't just be about physical healing, it's going to challenge her identity, her priorities, and even her relationships. The tension with Nathan that carried over from last season seemed to shift in episode 1, and fans could sense that tragedy may be forcing them into moments of reluctant connection. Whether this leads to reconciliation or further conflict is one of the biggest questions moving forward. And then came the whispers of something no one was ready for: Amy possibly expecting another child. Episode 1 didn't confirm it outright, but the subtle hints were there, leaving fans buzzing with speculation. A baby storyline would change everything for Amy and Lindy, not to mention how the rest of the family reacts. For longtime fans, the possibility is both heartbreaking and hopeful. It represents healing, but it also raises the question: how does Amy honor Dee's memory while stepping into a new future? The potential for a flashback or dream sequence with Ty connected to this storyline is one of the most anticipated moments of the season. And episode 1 carefully planted the seeds. Georgie's return, too, was teased in ways that felt both nostalgic and refreshing. Fans who have missed her presence immediately noticed how her reintroduction could shift the balance of the family dynamic. Katie's arc, while continuing, seemed ready to be challenged by Georgie's comeback. Episode 1 laid the groundwork for what could become one of the most exciting parallel storylines of the season. Will Georgie finally take the next big step with Quinn? Or will her return stir old tensions before it brings joy? But perhaps the most chilling undercurrent in episode 1 revolved around Tim for years. His health has been the silent shadow following him, and now, rumors of his decline feel closer than ever. The way episode 1 positioned him reflective, quieter, almost as if bracing for something was impossible to miss. If this truly is Tim's last season, episode 1 made sure to remind fans of his complicated yet vital role in the family. His possible exit would devastate Amy, Lou, Jack, and every fan who has grown to love and hate him in equal measure. By the time episode 1 wrapped, fans were left with more questions than answers. Will Amy truly open her heart again? Will Lou find strength in family after her accident? Will Nathan's family drama explode into the ranch's world? And is Tim preparing for his final goodbye? The only certainty is that season 19 is set up to be one of the most emotional, dramatic, and unforgettable chapters Heartland has ever delivered. Episode 1 of Heartland Season 19 didn't just rely on emotional callbacks. It also layered in new conflicts that made fans sit up and take notice. What makes this season so powerful already is the way it connects the past with the future, reminding us of everything these characters have endured, while daring to push them into uncharted territory. The writers clearly want fans to feel the weight of every choice. And episode 1 proved that the smallest decisions could end up having the biggest consequences. Take Amy's situation with Lindy, for example. For years, fans have watched her balance motherhood with her work at the ranch, but now, in season 19, the stakes feel higher. Episode 1 showed Lindy asking questions that Amy struggled to answer, questions about Ty, about family, about why life changes the way it does. For viewers who have grown up alongside Lindy, this was a gut punch. It wasn't just about Amy's grief anymore. It was about how that grief is shaping her daughter's view of the world. Every scene between them carried the tension of unspoken pain, and fans could sense that Lindy's growth this season may be one of the most emotional arcs yet. At the same time, Nathan's storyline was woven directly into the heart of the episode. His father's declining health loomed like a storm cloud, and while it wasn't front and center, it was clear that this shadow will grow darker as the season progresses. Episode 1 cleverly hinted that Nathan may soon be forced to choose between his responsibilities to his family and his relationship with Amy. That kind of conflict doesn't just test his character, it threatens to tear apart the fragile hope that Amy is just beginning to allow herself to feel. Fans know nothing in Heartland comes easy, and this romance is already shaping up to be one of the most complicated the show has ever. ATTEMPTEDLOU's recovery arc also deepened in Episode 1. It wasn't just about the accident, it was about what it took away from her. She's built her entire identity on being capable, driven, and in control, and now, suddenly, she's vulnerable in ways she never imagined. Episode 1 showed her struggling to accept help, struggling to slow down, and struggling to face the possibility that she may have to let go of the relentless ambition she's carried for years. What struck fans the most was how isolated she looked, even surrounded by family. It's a painful reminder that sometimes the hardest battles aren't physical, they're internal. And the question remains, will Lou allow herself to heal in more ways than one? Or will she break under the weight of her own pride? Meanwhile, Georgie's much-anticipated return was teased with small but meaningful details. Episode 1 didn't rush it, but the energy shifted the moment her presence was felt. Fans could sense that her storyline is being positioned as one of the emotional anchors of this season. Whether it's reconnecting with the family, rekindling her bond with Amy, or finally making big decisions about her future with Quinn, Georgie's arc promises to bring a blend of nostalgia and growth that fans have been craving. Her return also raises a subtle question: how will her presence affect Katie? For seasons, Katie has carried storylines that didn't always resonate. And with Georgie stepping back into the spotlight, the balance of focus in the younger generation is shifting. This could spark competition, conflict, or even a powerful new bond, depending on where the story takes them. And then there's Jack. Episode 1 reminded us once again why he's the backbone of Heartland. His quiet wisdom, his steady hand, and his love for his family were all on display. But beneath that calm exterior, there was something haunting in his eyes. Fans who have followed Jack for nearly 20 years know that he often senses storms before anyone else. And Episode 1 carried the feeling that he knows harder days are coming. His subtle concern for Tim, his cautious advice to Amy, and his attempts to keep the ranch running smoothly all carried the weight of someone who has seen too many battles already. If Tim's health really is declining, Jack's role this season could be the most heartbreaking of all, once again being forced to hold everyone together when his own world is falling apart. Episode 1 didn't resolve these storylines, but that's what made it so powerful. It planted seeds about Amy's possible pregnancy, about Lou's uncertain recovery, about Nathan's fractured family, about Georgie's long-awaited return, and about Tim's looming fate. Every moment felt like a setup for heartbreak, healing, or both. And as fans watched the final minutes of the premiere, one truth became painfully clear: Season 19 isn't here to give us comfort. It's here to remind us that life on the ranch is as unpredictable as life itself. One of the most striking parts of Episode 1 was the way it forced characters to confront change head-on. Heartland has always thrived on family bonds and the comfort of tradition. But this episode made it clear that traditions can't shield anyone from the harsh reality of loss, growth, and the choices that define us. Every storyline carried the weight of transition, and fans could feel the tension of characters standing at a crossroads, each with decisions that will shape not just this season, but the future of the ranch itself. Amy's journey remained the emotional anchor. Her quiet moments carried as much impact as her louder ones. And Episode 1 showed just how conflicted she truly is. Fans noticed how her interactions with Nathan were tender but cautious, filled with pauses, sit-along glances, and the kind of hesitation that reveals a heart still learning how to beat again after loss. It wasn't just romance that hung in the balance, it was her entire ability to trust herself with happiness. For years, Amy has been defined by resilience, by shouldering responsibilities that would crush most people. But now, Season 19 is daring her to ask, does she have the right to want joy again? Episode 1 didn't answer the question outright, but it let viewers feel the weight of it. And that lingering uncertainty is what made the premiere so powerful. Nathan's role in her story was layered with complications. Episode 1 revealed a man torn between his desire for Amy and the chains of his family obligations. His father's illness cast a long shadow, and the hints that he'll soon be forced to take on responsibilities he never asked for set the stage for conflict. Fans could sense that Nathan's relationship with Amy will be tested not just by her grief, but by the world pulling him in another direction. And then there was the quiet but chilling presence of his sister, whose disapproval of Amy hinted at storms waiting to explode. The idea of her spreading rumors or creating obstacles feels inevitable. And episode 1 left no doubt that Nathan's world will collide violently with Amy's before long. Lou's recovery arc also took surprising turns. While the accident left her physically vulnerable, what stood out most in episode 1 was her emotional fragility. Lou has always been fiercely independent, often stubborn to a fault, but this time, she seemed almost unmoored. The once confident leader was suddenly wrestling with self-doubt, questioning whether she could still handle everything she had taken on. The premiere made it clear this isn't just about healing bones or recovering strength. This is about Lou redefining who she is when everything she thought she knew about herself is stripped away. Fans were left wondering if this newfound vulnerability might open the door for deeper bonds with her family or push her into further isolation. Georgie's storyline, though still on the edges of episode 1, sparked immediate excitement. Her return wasn't rushed, but her presence loomed large in fan discussions after the premiere. For many, Georgie represents the next generation of Heartland's legacy, and her reappearance felt like a promise of renewal. But as much as fans want to see her happiness with Quinn, the hints of tension suggested that her path won't be smooth. Episode 1 positioned her as someone caught between past expectations and future choices. And that kind of conflict often brings both heartbreak and growth. Watching Georgie face adulthood with the weight of the family name on her shoulders could be one of the season's most compelling arcs. Tim's story, however, may be the one casting the darkest shadow. The way episode 1 portrayed him, reflective, quiet, and almost subdued, felt like the calm before a storm. Fans who have followed his ups and downs over the years recognize the signs. Whether it's his health finally catching up to him or the possibility of one last major storyline, the premiere hinted that Tim's time may be drawing to a close. And what makes this even harder is the way his relationships with Jack, Amy, and Lou remain unfinished, layered with love, anger, and regret. If season 19 truly marks his farewell, episode 1 already set the stage for an emotional gut punch that could rival T's passing in its impact on the family. The premiere closed with an air of suspense that Heartland doesn't often lean into, and that's what made it so gripping. Instead of offering comfort, it left fans with uneasy questions about Amy's future, Lou's strength, Nathan's loyalty, Georgie's choices, and Tim's fate. That sense of uncertainty is exactly what makes this season feel different. For nearly 2 decades, fans have relied on Heartland to deliver warmth and stability. But episode 1 reminded everyone that even the strongest families are tested by storms they can't control. And now, with so many threads already pulling in different directions, the season promises to be one of the most emotional rides Heartland has ever offered. Episode 1 of Heartland season 19 carried a sense of inevitability, as if the characters were being quietly pushed toward changes they couldn't avoid. For longtime fans, that was both thrilling and terrifying. The premiere didn't give us all the answers, but it made one thing very clear: this season isn't about standing still. It's about transformation, even when it hurts. And the first episode was packed with subtle hints of what's to come. Amy's potential pregnancy storyline became one of the biggest talking points after the episode aired. While nothing was confirmed, the premiere left a trail of small, deliberate clues, moments of hesitation, glances that lingered too long, and conversations that seemed loaded with unspoken meaning. For fans, the possibility of Amy bringing new life into the world feels monumental. It's not just about the idea of her moving on. It's about her healing from the grief that has defined her for years. T's death in season 14 left a hole that could never truly be filled. But episode 1 hinted that Amy may finally be ready to step into a future that honors his memory, while allowing her heart to beat again. A pregnancy would symbolize hope, closure, and the continuation of the Heartland legacy in a deeply emotional way. But with hope comes complication. Episode 1 suggested that not everyone around Amy will welcome this change. Nathan's family, already painted as a looming problem, could easily turn this storyline into one filled with tension and conflict. His sister's hinted disapproval carried an edge that fans immediately picked up on. The idea of her spreading rumors or interfering in Amy's life isn't just speculation, it feels inevitable. if Amy really is carrying Nathan's child. The drama surrounding it could fracture the fragile peace of the ranch. The premiere's quiet tension made it clear nothing about this journey will be simple. Lou's accident also lingered heavily in the premiere. Fans saw her forced into a position she never imagined, dependent, uncertain, and stripped of her usual confidence. For years, Lou's identity has been tied to her ambition, her ability to take charge, and her determination to control every detail. Episode 1 cracked that image wide open. Suddenly, she wasn't the strong leader holding everything together. She was the one needing help. That vulnerability carried an emotional punch because it was so unfamiliar. Viewers could sense that this arc will either bring Lou closer to her family or push her into deeper isolation. The premiere left the question hanging in the air, daring fans to wonder how far Lou will fall before she finds her footing again. Georgie's return, though still slow burning in episode 1, was one of the most exciting moments of the premiere. Her presence brought a spark that fans have been craving, a reminder of the show's earlier seasons when her character carried so much promise. Episode 1 didn't reveal everything about her arc, but it laid the groundwork for her to step back into the spotlight. Rumors of her engagement or marriage to Quinn hovered in fan discussions after the episode, and the premiere only added fuel to that fire. Watching Georgie navigate adulthood, love, and responsibility while reconnecting with the family could easily become one of the defining stories of this season. Her arc also carried a subtle but important question: will her return shift the balance of focus away from Katie? For fans who felt Katie's storyline became overextended in recent years, Georgie's reappearance may bring back the energy of Heartland's golden years. And then there was Tim. Episode 1 didn't need to say much for fans to notice something was wrong. The way he carried himself, slower, quieter, almost contemplative, felt like the writers were preparing us for something heartbreaking. For seasons, speculation about Tim's health has circled in the background, and now it feels closer than ever. His relationship with Jack, filled with years of conflict and hard-won respect, suddenly felt fragile, as if time was running out for the two men to find peace. For Amy and Lou, the thought of losing their father so soon after Ty is unbearable. But episode 1 planted that possibility firmly in the minds of viewers. If this really is Tim's final chapter, the premiere set the stage for his goodbye to be as emotional and devastating as anything the show has ever delivered. By the time episode 1 ended, fans weren't left with answers, they were left with questions. Is Amy truly ready for a new beginning, or will grief keep holding her back? Will Lou's accident destroy her confidence or rebuild her perspective? Will Georgie finally claim her place in the family again, or will her return spark new conflicts? And most haunting of all, is Tim preparing for his last goodbye? Episode 1 was a masterclass in setup, layering hope, fear, and suspense into every moment, daring fans to keep watching as Season 19 unfolds. Heartland Season 19 Episode 1 didn't just open a new chapter, it tore open old wounds and placed fresh challenges on the table. What stood out the most was how every character seemed to be standing at the edge of something life-changing. Amy, Lou, Georgie, Nathan, Tim, Jack, even Lindy, all of them were written in a way that reminded fans this season won't let anyone stay the same. Episode 1 wasn't just about setting up stories. It was about shaking the foundation of the ranch itself. Amy's arc is clearly the heart of the season, and the premiere showed why. The possibility of her carrying new life while still carrying the memory of Ty struck a deep emotional chord with fans. It isn't just about romance with Nathan or whether she lets herself love again. It's about Amy deciding if she's ready to rebuild her world without letting grief control her. Episode 1 let viewers feel every ounce of her hesitation, every glance that revealed the battle inside her. If the pregnancy rumors prove true, it could become the most meaningful storyline Heartland has delivered in years, bringing Amy full circle from heartbreak to hope, from loss to healing. And the thought of Ty returning in a flashback or dream sequence tied to this journey is something that fans are already bracing themselves for, knowing it could be one of the most emotional moments of the entire series. Lou's struggle was no less gripping. Episode 1 peeled back the layers of a character who has always seemed untouchable. In her determination, now, suddenly, she is fragile, forced to accept help, and staring down the reality that she can't always control the outcome. Her accident didn't just test her body, it tested her identity. Watching Lou wrestle with who she is when she can't lead or command will be painful, but it also promises growth. The premiere showed the cracks in her confidence, but it also hinted that this fall might be what forces her to truly prioritize what matters most: her family, her healing, and the relationships she's too often pushed aside. Georgie's looming return carried a sense of anticipation that hung over the entire episode. Episode 1 only gave us pieces, but even those were enough to remind fans why she's so beloved. Georgie has always represented the future of Heartland, and now, as she steps back into the fold, her choices could redefine not only her own path, but the direction of the younger generation of the family. Whether it's a wedding with Quinn, a career-defining decision, or a clash with Katie, her arc promises to bring both joy and conflict in equal measure. Fans who have longed for her presence will no doubt find her return to be one of the highlights of the season. And then there's Tim, the shadow that loomed over episode 1 without needing to speak loudly. His presence was heavy, his silence telling, and the look in his eyes said more than any dialogue could. Fans know the signs. Heartland has never shied away from goodbyes, and the premiere made it feel like Tim's chapter may be nearing its end. His complicated bond with Jack, his sometimes difficult relationship with Amy and Lou, and his place in the family's story all felt like threads being tied together for something final. If this truly is his last ride, episode 1 began building the groundwork for an exit that will leave fans devastated, yet grateful for the legacy of a character who has been both loved and hated for nearly 2 decades. As episode 1 drew to a close, fans weren't left with neat resolutions. Instead, they were left with questions that cut deep. Will Amy find the courage to embrace a new life while still honoring Ty? Will Lou rebuild herself after tragedy or crumble under the weight of expectations? Will Nathan's family destroy the fragile happiness he and Amy are reaching for? Will Georgie's return bring joy or stir new rivalries? And will Tim survive long enough to see the family through one last storm? These questions are what made the premiere unforgettable. What episode 1 proved is that Heartland is still capable of surprising fans. After nearly 20 years, it can still make us cry, speculate, and cling to every moment of family, love, and loss. The ranch remains the backdrop, but the true story is about resilience, about how people rebuild after life breaks them, and about how love in all its forms finds a way to endure. As season 19 continues, one thing is certain: this journey will test every character, and it will test every fan watching. And if the premiere is any sign of what's ahead, then Heartland season 19 may just become one of the most emotional seasons the show has ever delivered. So what did you think of episode 1? Do you believe Amy is really expecting? Is Tim's story coming to an end? And are you ready for Georgie's return to shake up the family? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any breakdowns of the season ahead.